I'm just going to have a little look in on my peas. And you'll know from last week's video that I grew them first in a plastic gutter, and then I slid them all out and planted them here in the allotment garden when they were, let's see here, they're about 2-3 inches tall. And that way I was able to control their growth and keep them away from slugs and mice, etc. And they're growing on really well. This is a variety called Meteor, and it only gets to about 18 inches tall, which is great because I've decided to keep it underneath this netting because it's turning out to be the year of the pheasant here at the allotment. And you'll know that I'm also not a huge fan of plastic in the allotment garden anymore after doing a little walk around our site this winter and finding so much rubbish. But netting is going to be really crucial to having a harvest this year. And so I have quite a few little setups around my allotment right now that I'm going to show you today. And all the netting is from a company in the UK called Gardening Naturally, and they specialize in just natural and organic gardening products. And this netting is fantastic because it is synthetic, but it will last a long time. So I'll be able to keep this in the shed and use it from year to year. And it looks pretty good too. So underneath here, I've obviously got my peas over there on the left, but I also have lettuce in here. I also have chard, beetroot, turnips in here, radishes, and against that far side I've got some green onions. Now they don't need as much protection from pheasants, but they fit in here anyway, so I thought I'd give them a little bit of protection as well. This is my favorite of the aluminium hoop sets, and it's the square topped one for obvious reasons. And what I love about it is that it creates so much more space inside the netting. So if you look at it from this angle, a hoop would actually curve up like that, and it would cut out the extra vertical space. So if you've got tall plants that need protection, this is the thing to do it. Now inside, I don't really have any tall plants, but I have kohlrabi. Those are the ones that I grew in eggshells. And then I think 3 or 4 different types of spinach. And I think there's also some turnips in here as well. And what is this down here at the end? That's a beetroot, a type of beetroot that I'm growing. It's a new type for me. I think it's called Chiyoga, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And down here at the end, that's my last purple sprouting broccoli. And it's starting to go to flower, but you can see the height. So this hoop set really allows it to grow up quite high. And so it's going to be a real asset for my brassicas in the coming years. I've got that soft butterfly netting also over here over my brassicas. And in this bed I've got kale and purple sprouting broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and they're all delectable to not only pheasants but to the cabbage white butterfly. And what the butterfly wants to do is to lay its eggs on the leaves, and they would be absolutely covered in caterpillars before long. Now the netting is actually quite big, and so I have rolled it up here on the sides because next year I might want to use it for another application. It might be a larger area, so I don't want to cut it. And then the hoops that I have in here, these are the aluminium high top hoops from Gardening Naturally. But I've used them in a rather creative way because my bed is a bit larger. So instead of having just a single row of cabbages or a double, quite closely planted row, I've just used them to create a little bit of a wider netting area. And I think it's doing quite well. Although you can just put this down in a single row as well. That's more the traditional planting. The netting, you can see, is the holes in between are quite large so that insects can get through. So this is not going to deter the carrot root fly, which we'll get to in a second, but honeybees will be able to get through it. So not only can you use the soft butterfly netting for your brassicas, but you can use it for your strawberries as well. My strawberry plants don't have any netting over them right now, but they will do soon. And right now, they're just in blossom. So there's nothing really to tempt pigeons or pheasants or even slugs. So I'm keeping them open and allowing them to grow on, and these flowers to get open pollinated by bees and other pollinators. And then once they start forming fruits, then I will start putting down an additional mulch underneath here. So potentially straw, but also egg cartons work well as well. And then covering this with soft butterfly netting as well. What I won't do, and which I've spotted just yesterday, is put any kind of fine mesh netting over my strawberries this time of the year, because what happens then is that insects cannot get through to pollinate the flowers. And if they don't pollinate the flowers, then you're not going to have any fruit. So make sure that you do not put any fine mesh netting on your strawberries until you're sure that they're all pollinated and that berries are forming. Now on to today's sowing task, and I have two types of rainbow carrots to sow, and I've actually already sown quite a bit in this patch already, and there are a few little seedlings coming up, but I suspect that it was either, can you guess it, the pheasants or slugs that took them out. So I'm resowing them, and I'm also going to protect them against their, I guess, most important pest, at least here at my site, and that's carrot root fly. Do you have carrot root fly in your area? Have you ever had carrots with little holes in them? Let me know as a comment below, because I'll tell you what, I have, and it's disgusting. Basically, these flies, they look like ordinary small flies. They come and lay eggs at the base of each one of your little seedlings or plants, and then when the maggots hatch, lovely thought, they burrow into your roots, and you don't really discover them until it's time to harvest, because the foliage usually just looks green and normal. It's only when you pull the root up and you find that it's brittle, they can break in half really easily, and there's little maggots inside and all kinds of little tiny burrowed holes. And we don't want that, do we? So what I've done is I've drawn some drills here, and I'm going to sow each with seed, and then I'm going to cover it immediately with this veggie mesh. And this is so fine that those flies cannot get through to lay their eggs, and so this will save my carrot crop. Carrots are netted. This fits on perfectly. I've left a little additional on the side there that I've rolled up, and that way I can extend this carrot bed if I want to put in another row or two, which I probably will do. And around the edges I've used rocks, but also these clips to hold the netting down. And I can see the clips coming in really handy if you're not, well, if you're fortunately not on a rocky site like I am and don't have lots of heavy things to weigh things down with. And they work really well. They just clip onto the netting, and then you can push it into the soil. And that way you don't damage the netting either. The last type of netting that I'm using this year is this really soft bird netting. And the holes on it are a bit larger than the butterfly netting, but it'll keep birds off of things like berries. And this is my raspberry patch. Down here on this end, I have white or golden raspberries, and they don't seem to be bothered as much by birds. But the red ones that are over here do, as do my blueberries and other berries that are over in my perennial patch just over here. So the way this works is that you drape it over your plants when they are fruiting, and birds can't get through it. And neither can I. Gosh, throughout this entire video, these rooks have been at it. Those are the birds that you hear in the background. And I'll tell you what, this netting will keep my raspberries safe from the pheasants, but also from those guys. They live down at the church all day long. They fly around as a group, making all kinds of noise. And yes, they could probably be a pest as well. I think with other people though, it's more likely to be pigeons that might be the bird of destructing raspberry crops. But in any case, this is really good stuff. And what I also really like about it, it's super soft. So that means I can just pull it up without having to weigh it down. You know, pluck a few berries, do a little harvest, and then this goes down easily. And it will protect the next crop. Gosh, those rooks and the pigeons and the pheasants. It's like they're taunting me. They just keep squawking. But I can head home now, confident that when I come back the next time, all of my plants will still be here because they're protected by netting. What I'm really interested in though is what types of wildlife do you have to deal with in your garden? Is it pheasants as well? Is it rooks? Is it rabbits or deer? Oh my goodness, deer is one thing I don't have to deal with here on the Isle of Man. What are your tips for keeping wildlife from munching and digging up all of your vegetables? Leave it as a comment below. Let us know what your ideas are. And I'm sure your tips are going to help me, but also everyone else that is down there reading the comments as well. So definitely do that. And then also, if you were interested in any of the netting or the hoops that you saw in this video, head over to the Gardening Naturally website. They've got a fantastic range. You can request a catalog through either phone or through their website. They've got free shipping on orders over 75 quid until the end of this month. And then also for Lovely Greens viewers, I have a discount code. So if you use greens10, and I'm gonna leave that down in the description of this video as well, that'll get you 10% off your first order. So definitely check them out. Can highly recommend the netting. I love how it just kind of fits into the garden and it's not obtrusive in the way that, you know, some of the green netting can be. They also have other products on their website, and I love that they're all natural and organic. So if you're an organic gardener like me, you can go onto the website and be assured that anything that you pick or order is going to fit in with your ethos as well. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And then next week, I'm going to get back to this elephant in the room, my new plot. I've not been giving it the attention it needs, and I've got pumpkins and squash at home that are growing and need to go into this plot. So I'm going to be tackling that, and you're going to see my progress in that next Sunday. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your comments and questions below. I'd love to hear from you, and I will see you next week.